I wanted to say that I agree with majority opinion here on YouTube about the idea that Hollywood has gone downhill into shit. Um, but I dissent from the majority in terms of the reasons why it's gone to shit. To say the least, I don't share the common view that it was social justice warriors, it was feminist Hollywood, it was feminist writing that drove a stake through the heart of the film industry and made it as shit as it is. I don't believe any of that crap. I don't believe that it was politics that did it in. I don't believe that it was filmmakers having a political agenda that did it in. None of that, is what I blame for Hollywood's massive slide downhill. I pin literally all the blame on the fact that bad writing has taken over and that the pursuit of easy and cheap money has become emblematic of Hollywood. Hollywood also is thinking mostly in terms of return on investment. The people that are financing the projects are thinking mostly in terms of return on investment and not in love of film making as a concept, but in literally in how much money films are going to bring in. And it's become a hackneyed and easy way to make money to make a sequel and to subject American audiences to sequel after sequel after sequel. Um, Not only that, but superhero movies, they translate cross-culturally very well, and China is an audience of potentially 1 billion people, although nobody's ever going to reach it literally the entire Chinese population. That's just an unachievable aim, but it's, nevertheless, sometimes aiming higher than we can actually ever reach is a good idea simply because aiming high usually means that you will end up doing better than you expected, basically. It's just the reality of a situation like that. So, you're not ever going to reach all of China, but the pursuit of perfection sometimes is literally worth, doing despite everything, you know, and and despite acknowledging that you will never actually be able to reach it. But, the truth. So you don't fault yourself when you fail, but you do realize that still aiming for something unachievable also sets you up to try harder, you know what I mean? And the thing the thing about, you know, what's happened though is that cross culturally it hasn't been an attempt at trying harder at all. In fact, what it's turned into is superhero movies translate across culture a lot easier than romantic films, romantic comedies, anything based on Americans and our sense of humor, or anything. And as an American who enjoys the occasional comedy, but is a David Cross fan and everything, I have a very different taste in comedy than a lot of my neighbors do. Obviously, I'm a little bit harder to please as far as comedy is concerned. It's a lot harder to make me actually laugh. Part of it is that I don't get a lot of the jokes, but the ones that I do hit hard. You know, part of it also is just maybe I do get the joke, but I think it's a little bit too cheesy and corny, and it just doesn't actually succeed at making me laugh. Like sometimes it's just that people they find the weirdest freaking things funny, like fart jokes and stupid cringe shit that I just don't, or they find bashing on, punching down humorous. And I just none of that is actually my idea of what's funny. I mean, I think comedy is often at its best when it's deeply subversive and it mocks people that are literally in positions of power. And as a white male, like, women that bash down and at us white males, for instance, as comedians, I actually approve. Ver like, very strongly. I'm not like, I literally, I watch, this Japanese comic, I'm struggling to like, bring her forward for you, but she's really funny, Naga Yuma Nagasima, like, she's hilarious, and she's absolutely savage in what she puts forward, and, she definitely does, as a comic, punch down quite a bit, and it's not, unenjoyable or frustrating to watch as a white guy, even though we are often the target of her comedy. Like, we can laugh at ourselves, like, like, go ahead, bash white men, as long as you're bashing down, and the thing, as long as you're punching down, I don't really care, and the thing the thing is that, like, David Cross does that a lot, despite being a white guy, and, he isn't punching necessarily down from himself, but down from other groups of people and oppressed minorities and everything else. Like, he is very much trying to be a voice for the underdog in other, ways that, he's using his voice as a white male to stand up for people of lower, status than himself and everything. And I, tip of my hat off to him for it. So comedy is best when it's deeply subversive and it's mocking those in positions of power, and it's undermining, control of what of the control groups in this whole thing. But like, a lot of that stuff doesn't, actually translate cross culturally too well, and so what you end up with is a bunch of superhero movies being marketed to China, whereas, romantic comedies are thought of as something only Americans can appreciate, and so maybe they occasionally get produced, but not as much anymore. You know what I mean? Like, there started to be a lack of real content in that direction, whereas there used to be a lot of it. As far as all that stuff's concerned, and y- you know, I'm upset with Hollywood. I think that it really has gone to shit, and that we've been through 2 decades now of terrible movies, and y like, I literally paid to see, like, fucking J.K. Rowling's newest work with, Fantastic Beasts and everything, and, my mind is already starting to go to a place where it's like, why, you know, um yeah, I just I don't, and, the that was before, by the way, it came out that she was a massive transphobe. Like, now it's just like, pirate her work if you want to experience it at all. Don't give her any money, but, don't give her any more, but the thing is that just Hollywood and its filmmaking have, it's just been abysmal for year after year. I, like, honestly don't remember the last time I drove by the local movie theater and saw literally even one film that I wanted to go see, and I'm not alone in that way, but I the common explanation that folk have come up with in the United States has been, it's politics, it's social justice warriors, it's feminist Hollywood, it's, a million other things get blamed for it, and for me, it's just abysmally bad writing. I mean, I think that this trend also started in the '90s. I mean, I have a friend, or a former friend, Kent Sylvan, right, who literally wrote the film, Cherry Falls, and I went and watched it, and it's, one of those horror movies from the '90s, but it sucks. I mean, I no disrespect on to Kent and everything, but, his movie, like, really taught me that, in a big way, that bad movies often get greenlighted and often do well at the box office. I mean, his didn't necessarily, but, a movie being abysmal doesn't necessarily mean it won't return on investment and do well on the big screen at all. Like, it just it's an unfortunate reality, of the American system and of the film industry and everything else. So you will see projects that are just awful that get greenlighted, and bad writing has taken over. I mean, there have been a lot of films that I literally would not pay the $35 to see in a theater, let alone like the fucking $18 on the fucking DVD copies of like it, where if I sat through them at all, I was just relieved that the only thing that I was out was the 2 hours that I had wasted watching their stupid fucking movie. And this disappointment has been something that I've experienced quite a bit in the last 2 decades when it comes to Hollywood movies. And I just, the last movie that my family in general wanted to see was Hidden Figures. Like, I mean, I get why they liked that one in particular and why they were fans of it. Uh, but things things have just gone to the dogs, like very little has been actually worth watching coming out of them. And if there was something that did come my way and I started to appreciate it, was after the fact. And, you know, after examining something that didn't initially, resonate, but examining it deeper, like happened to me with Promising Young Woman. I do like that movie, and it's a more recent film, but at first there was nothing about it that appealed to me. I had to sit through it and actually watch it to realize that it was good, you know? And it's unfortunate that, things have been that way for a long time. I mean, on a lot of these movies, just the good ones are not even advertised well at all. Like they I didn't see any fucking previews for that one before I watched it at all. I never came across advertising for it or anything, and it was just a selection purely on the basis of, hey, I'm interested in women, their plight and what's happening to them, and what they want to say to us and their message. I think I'll check this one out and give it a shot. And then I did, and it was worth watching. And like it, I and it said some stuff that I think a lot of guys need to hear. you know Eh, but that stated, that's a different topic entirely. And Hollywood just isn't doing too well, and it just hasn't been producing any very much that was worth watching. I did sit through, Nomadland as well, and I wouldn't, I didn't it was would not recommend, though.